Yo, it's your boy the Scientist, and check it out. Now, I have been incredibly fascinated by this new Mace Cameron beef. First of all, because they're both legends, and it's actually a bar beef. Instead of like a social media beef or whatever. But still, super dope. I love it. Now, the one thing that I've been kind of noticing since this beef came out is that I don't understand everything that was before my time. Now, you see, I grew up, when I was young, 50 was the dude, right? So I came up right after like Ja Rule and Cameron. So I knew about them and I've heard about them, and of course now I know because I do my fucking due diligence and look up dope artists. But back I wasn't in the thing while I was young when it was actively going on. It was just before my time. Now Mase I know about because I was a big Bad Boy fan. But Mase was one of those guys. I like what he did, but he was always like sort of like a commercial rapper, and people always clowned Mase. That was one thing that was always around. Now with Mase, that's kind of funny because he actually did come from some really rugged, like quote unquote real street niggas, Harlem niggas. He was rolling. He was in that group. Children of the Corn, with Cam and Big L, maybe the most grimy rapper to ever come out ever. Like, let's keep it real. But as I was growing up, you always heard the stories about Mase of being run out of Harlem and nobody respecting him anymore. Trying to become a governor, trying to look religion because the real gangster niggas weren't fucking with him anymore. And one of the guys who was doing that the most was, of course, Cameron and some of his guys, I guess. Well, it seems like Mase has had enough because he struck back. And I think there was probably already some, like, behind the scenes kind of thing where they already knew when this was kind of going to happen. But he let off. And he let off quite well. He gave some shots to Cam. It almost makes me look kind of different at Cam. Like seriously. He said, ever since you 10, you was a firsty nigga. I ain't gonna talk about the time you fucked your sister. Ugh. Yeah, that's great because he said, I'm not gonna talk about the time you. Okay, well you did, but I'm cool with it. And I mean, the way people have been talking about Cam, sort of telling people he has no credibility. At least that's how I always looked at it. People telling he was a pussy. He was a great commercial rapper in the 90s, but except for that, nobody really gives a shit about him. That's always how I saw people talk about him. So I understand if you're gonna, go out balls blazing, just completely let off on these dudes, right? And he was also talking shit about the relationship, the way Mace, but the way Cam handles certain relationships. He said, you rob Jules on some Diddy shit, and when Jim start balling, you get back on some sissy shit. But that makes me see like you're talking about like being a real nigga, talking about all that real shit, but at the end of the day, you're fucking over your friends. And then when somebody is balling or whatever, you do whatever you want to do. But just sort of, I guess, let him be the man. I guess that means what it means. But it means you're not being a cool dude. That's really, that's what it's all about. You're not being real, right? Now, this is some of the things that I find funny about hip-hop a lot of times. Because I feel like we're subjective when it comes to who's a pussy, who's real, who's not real. Because Maze, obviously he's had some less than reputable incidents in his life. He quote unquote got run out of Harlem, his own hood. That's pretty bad, if you can't even come to your own neighborhood. But at the same time, a lot of things that Maze mentioned here, I think was around for a little while. I don't know about the little sister shit, fucking over artists, not wanting that smoke with 50, that type of stuff. That was always something that people brought up or people talked about or whatever. But for some reason, you always give the benefit of the doubt to Cam because he's a real one. He's Harlem. Cam is Harlem, and Mase isn't for some reason, right? Now I'm not from Harlem. I'm not even from New York, so I can't speak on that too much. All I think, the way I look at it is that Cameron's wave was so immensely big, and it wasn't just about him. He brought so many people with him, Jules and Jim Jones and just Dipset and Diplomats and the whole thing. And I heard how everybody was dressing, you know, purple and pink just because of Cam. And everybody thought he was so cool. But at the same time, I get that, right? You look at, just like people from my generation will always look at 50 as like this hardcore dude. But 50, I'm sure there's a snitching allegation, I guess. But for most of all, he's always stood about that word. And with that, I mean going into deadly situations when you're rich. So you could just, you know, back down and pussy up or whatever. But 50 was one of those guys that you've seen back when he was still popping, was always at the bridge. Or the tunnel. Always hear mad stories about, like, you know, him and having beefs, guns and all that type of crazy shit with him and Ja Rule. This is all when he was rich. I don't really know about that too much with Cam, but what I do know is that the things that they're talking about with Cam and Mase, I mean, like, what's really worse? You know what I'm saying? Like, you fuck your sister, you're not cool with your friends, you're sort of like a scummy type dude. Or you got run out of Harlem and you were looking for religion at some point. I mean, you know, I get on a street nigga sense, I would say they're both wrong. You know what I'm saying? But why do people go for Cam? That's what I want to know. And it's not, I'm not saying anything. I'm not an authority. I'm not telling anybody what's the truth here. I'm asking you guys. Why do people dislike Mase and just almost worship Cam a lot of times? Is it just the music? Is it just the music, the bravado, the swag, and all that stuff? Or am I missing some stories that I should have known about Cam? Because then I would really know what the fuck I'm talking about. You guys let me know. Because I really don't. I mean, I fuck with Cam heavy in the sense that I listen to his music. Killer come, killer come, killer come. I fuck with all that shit. But I don't have really that much stories about Cam that would make me say, like, okay, well, maybe he fucked his sister and, you know, he screwed over Jules in a contractual way, even though that's his buddy. I mean, I don't know if all these stories are true, but the way people are approaching them seems like, you know, there's at least some credibility to it. And Mase and Cam have been knowing each other because they were both, you know, in Children of the Corn. Big L. And they go way back. They know about each other. And as far as I know, Mase is probably more, back in the day, was probably more of a little bit of an OG to Cam, you know? Until at the point when, you know, people start to fuck with Mase anymore. But if these things are true, then I do wonder why people fuck with Cameron so heavy that all of that doesn't matter. And, you know, when other people do shit, it does matter most of the time. But with Cam, it's sort of also okay, or pretty much most of the time. Well, okay, well, yeah, you guys tell me. Mase got this one for me. I don't think the beef is over. I mean, maybe it is over, but it shouldn't have to be over if you ask me. But yeah, you guys tell me what you think. Check it out. Peace. Oh yeah, like, comment, and subscribe.